Woo! Okie dokie. Hello, brothers. Let's get started. We're talking about yielding isometrics today. Understanding what it is a broad overview of what yielding isometrics is. So, first of all, real quick, who am I? I'm James Raphael WISBY, okay? A dude who really likes yielding isometrics and other types of isometrics, but we're going to focus on yielding isometrics today. So, right, yielding isometrics, unlocking static strength for maximum performance. We have a verse here, Deuteronomy 31:6, which says, "Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or terrified, for the Lord your God goes with you." So, hey, welcome to a comprehensive exploration of yielding isometrics, the strength training method that builds unwavering power through controlled resistance. Today, we'll discover how holding static positions under load can transform your physical and mental fortitude. So I got some different statistical things here. Some of them may seem crazy, some of them may not. We're going to really dig down deep into what the heck is yielding isometrics and how it can benefit you no matter who you are. If you're young, if you're old, if you're an athlete, if you're not an athlete, if you're injured, if you're not injured, if you're whatever you're trying to do, if you're doing regular lifting or you've never been in the gym before, okay? This is a broad overview. Now specifically, I'm focused more on Christian men in health and fitness, but this yielding isometrics can be applied to anybody. So let's get started here. So to start with, the motor unit activation compared to dynamic movements is about 5% more. So what that's saying is when you're doing, let's say, like an overhead press, okay, you're pressing overhead like this, doing that dynamically with normal weights, you're getting your normal muscle activation. So what they do is they attach like electrodes and things to your muscles, and they test to see what the electrical signal is based off of what the movement is. And what they found is when you're doing yielding isometrics, so just holding like this, you're getting 5% more motor unit activation. So your muscles are activating basically 5% more than if you were to go through the full range of motion. The reason why this is really powerful is because you're getting more for basically less movement. And it doesn't sound like much, 5%, but the main reason why this is important is saying you're getting the same amount of muscle activation holding still as you are going through a range of motion. And so this is saying that it's just as effective in terms of just pure muscle activation as actually like doing a lift. And so that's important because most often people would think, oh, well, doing this is much better for your muscle and will build bigger muscles than doing this. So just as a mighty oak tree grows stronger by weathering storms while remaining rooted, yielding isometrics teaches us to find strength in stillness, power in patience, and victory through steadfast endurance. And that's what we're doing here. And yielding isometrics is actually way harder than dynamic movements. It's way, 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 way harder. The only thing that is close to yielding isometrics, I would say, is doing super slow training, because that's brutal. Yielding isometrics can be just as brutal. So what are yielding isometrics? Give you a better understanding of what it is, because this may be the first time that you've ever heard of it. So it's just static. You might have heard static holds. You might have heard just isometrics or holding isometrics. Right, yielding isometrics, they're muscle contractions that hold a static position while resisting an external force that tries to lengthen the muscle without allowing movement to occur. So when I was here against a wall, and let's say I'm doing an overhead press and I hold it right here, imagine there's weights in my hands. I'm holding it there and I'm resisting the weight bringing my arms down, okay? So I'm doing some sort of static hold. And my muscle length is not changing. It's not coming up, so this would be concentric, so the muscle is my triceps is shortening, the muscle is shortening, so that'd be concentric, and coming down would be eccentric for my tricep muscles, okay? So the muscle is not moving, it's just staying still, but it's still contracting. So the key characteristics here are that the muscle contracts but does not change length. So that's different than concentric or eccentric, so dynamic movement. You're resisting a movement rather than creating it. So we're going to talk about something, talk about the distinction between yielding and overcoming isometrics. And the key difference here is yielding is you're resisting something. And you're blocking the eccentric lengthening of contraction. So when you're right here holding the weight, you are stopping it from bringing you down, which would be the eccentric contraction. So you're not going up, you're not going towards concentric. You're actually stopping it from being eccentric. So it's important to note, because eccentric contractions are going to do the most amount of muscle damage and are going to build the most amount of muscle mass. That's important later. Now, yielding isometrics, very little actual muscle damage, usually, depending on how you do it, but you can to be able to gain a lot of muscle mass. So the key thing is sustained tension under load. So when you're doing an overhead press and you do 10 reps, 1, 2, 3, 4, you're only right here. And when you're moving, you're only right here for, like a tenth of a second, a fifth of a second, right? You're moving, boom, boom. But when you hold the isometric, the yielding isometric, you're here and you're going to hold this for 10, 20, 30, or 60 seconds. So if time under tension equals muscle mass, well, this is a lot of time under tension. Okay, the analogy would be, think of a suspension bridge cable. It doesn't move, but it bears tremendous load through constant tension. Your muscles become like these cables, generating immense strength through unwavering resistance. Part of the goal here is to have incredible control. You see a lot of times, usually like with a squat, people will come down and they'll bounce out at the bottom. We want to have full control where we're not dropping down into the bottom or bouncing, but where we're having really controlled movement all the way down to the bottom, and we have control coming out of that squat. For overhead press, it'd be like coming up. There might be a sticking point where it's like, oh, it's kind of hard to get through, or we kind of like drop through. And at the bottom, maybe we like use the bottom to bounce out, but we want to have full control where we can come all the way down here and then push with strength all the way up, full control. That's what we want. So moving on, right? Usually studies are going to show that you get about a 15-degree angle of joint specificity. So basically saying from this position right here, I have a plus or minus 15-degree in strength. So if I train right here, about 15 degrees, so like maybe here, and then about here, I'm gonna build strength in that range as well. The research is saying that that's where you get pretty much 100% of the same amount. So here, if I train here, I'm getting the same exact amount of strength in this position about as I am in this position. But it's not saying that here or here, you're not getting any. It's just not 100% of the amount of strength that you build from here. So usually you want to cycle these. So you'd want to like do some holds in the middle, then you'd want to cycle after a couple of weeks. You want to do one that's a little bit higher up, and then one that's at the bottom of the hold. Cycle those so you get robust strength throughout the whole range of movement. But even if you don't, you just do the middle, and you do that for the rest of your life, you're still going to get incredible strength up here and incredible strength all the way down through the entire range of motion. So the example here is including holding a plank position, maintaining a half squat under a barbell, or sustaining the bottom position of a pull-up. And the key thing here is it's not just passive, like you're just like being lazy. It's active, right? Because you're like, you're resisting the load. And so it's an active, crazy hold. And you can do this for any movement you normally do dynamically. So typically you would see something like a wall sit be yielding isometrics. Okay, you've probably done a wall sit. And those are great for like endurance, getting people started who are very, very weak or don't have very much muscle mass. Great for people who are rehabilitating from an injury or in the older population, or especially for children. People who are a little bit older, like in their late teen years, or actual like adults, people who are have pretty healthy bodies, we want to put the muscle under load. And so that would be doing things like adding weight. So adding a weight vest when you're doing like a wall sit, or putting a weight vest on when you do a plank. Those are some body weight movements you can do. However, you can also transfer this over to actual like movements. So if you're doing a squat with a barbell, you can just come down halfway and hold that. And that's all you do. You hold that for 30 seconds, you put it on the rack, you rest for a minute, and then you come back and you hold it for 30 seconds again, put it on the rack, rest a minute, come back for your third set, hold it for 30 seconds, and then you're done for the squat. Very simple way of doing it. Very, very difficult. Give it a try with your normal weight. So if you normally put on the bar like 200 pounds or whatever, and you do that for 10 reps, let's just example, okay? Your next workout, instead, put on the same amount of weight, come down halfway and hold that for 30 seconds, and then do 3 sets of that. it's a ton of time and attention, and it's very, very difficult to hold. So you can do it with anything. You can do it with, if you want to do bench, you come about halfway, or you can come right below the bottom, above the bottom position in a bench, and you can hold that. You can do like I was doing here, overhead press. You could do a lat pull down. You could come down all the way and hold it, or just halfway. You can do any dynamic movement you would normally do. You can do with this. The only exercise to be a little careful about would be doing any sort of deadlifting, mainly because with deadlifting, most of the time people put too much weight that their body is compensating by using their back to be able to help with the movement a lot. And so if we're holding it here, like halfway, then our back is going to be engaged a lot. But what you can do is you can put a lighter weight on the bar, and then you can do those. Now, a way that I kind of get around this is I'll instead do bent over rows. And I'll do this isometrically, yielding wise. And doing those, I'm getting the benefit of sort of getting that hinge movement of bent over while I'm doing my row. So it's 2 for 1. So moving on here. So now we're coming to the difference between yielding and overcoming, like I said. So with yielding isometrics, like we've already stated, you're resisting a movement against gravity, load. So that's a wall sit, that's a plank, that's a squat, whatever it is. And you're focused on controlling descent. So your body's going to want to fall down. You're going to control that and keep it there and resist it. Now, there are some yielding isometrics in which you're going to go completely to failure, which would be, you're here, you're holding your weights here, and then you're going to hold it until your arms drop all the way. Now, that's very difficult training to do, super, super difficult, because your mind has to be like in it. And usually you have to have someone else train you to push you through that and not give up. So the recommendation here is if you're training by yourself, just to do it for time and then track your time and your loads and increase those progressively over time, just like you would normally do with a dynamic movement. And the goal here is to build stability and endurance. Now you can program these to also build incredible amounts of muscle and, of course, for strength. You just have to progress it, add load, and add time. So if you do more time, you're doing more endurance. If you do really heavy, then you're doing more strength. And somewhere in between is for hypertrophy, for muscle gain. So it depends how you manipulate the load and the time. Just like when you do with dynamic movements, you would do, very low reps with high weight for strength, and you would do, high reps with low weight for endurance, and you do kind of in the middle for hypertrophy. So we already thought about examples. So now we're just very quickly look at overcoming isometrics so you have an idea of what the difference is. Because I know there's a lot of other people on YouTube who talk about overcoming isometrics, and we will eventually, but we're going to focus on yielding isometrics now. So overcoming isometrics, it's maximal force against an immovable object. So that would be like I come here and I push as hard as I can against this wall. This wall is not going to move, but I'm pushing as hard as I can. That's overcoming. I'm overcoming something. You're focusing on force production, so pushing as hard as you can. Okay, this is building explosive power, crazy strength. It's ridiculous. Okay, examples here, like I said, pushing against a wall, pulling like a bar. If you put the bar in a squat rack against the pins and you pull as hard as you can, and it doesn't move, right? That's what we're doing here. Okay, or you do something like you go to the lat pull down machine and you put it on a really heavy weight that you can't move, and then you pull as hard as you can, that sort of thing. So just looking at the difference here, yielding is more like think about defense and control versus overcoming being attack and force. So yielding is going to be your foundation. It's going to be, think about if you were going to build like a big skyscraper. You go into the area, you cut down all the trees, you get rid of the bushes, you get rid of all the big rocks, you flatten out the ground, and then you pour your foundation. And your foundation goes nice and deep into the earth, and it gives you a big, stable basis. That's what yielding isometrics does. It sets you up to have such a robust foundation and incredible strength, and it's ridiculous. So that's sort of the main difference. Right? A wise man is strong. Yes, a man of knowledge increases strength. That's from Proverbs 24 and 5. Right? So understanding these differences allows us to choose the right tool for building the strength we need. And so for the majority of people, they're not doing yielding isometrics, and they need to do them. So yielding isometrics needs to be the foundation that we do for anybody who is a child and anybody who is getting into fitness first time and anybody who has been in fitness for any amount of time because they're probably not doing it. And this is going to help prevent any sort of joint injuries. It's going to lay that foundation, like I said, for anybody and get them prepared to do better in all the conventional sorts of lifts. So now we're going to move on to our fourth slide here, the science of strength, just so you get a deeper understanding of what's going on, like inside your body. So the physiological mechanisms at work, we have motor unit recruitment, which your motor units are just, you have a nerve that controls a bunch of muscle fibers. That's a motor unit. Okay. So yielding isometrics recruits up to 5% more motor units in concentric or eccentric actions, maximizing muscle fiber activation for superior strength development. That increase of 5% is not really that important. It is just showing that, hey, this is just as good or a little bit more as regular dynamic movement of up and down, okay? Or eccentric and concentric, okay? So you can get all the same benefits and more from it, right? We talked about the joint angle specificity. Strength gains occur within plus or minus 15 degrees of the held position, allowing precise targeting of weak points in your range of motion. So this would be something where if like let's say at the very bottom of your overhead press, you're super weak. And it's like, man, here I'm really strong, but down here just really weak. So there may be some muscle imbalance that's down here at the bottom. So doing isometric holds right down here at the bottom is going to increase your strength down here and give you incredible strength and a good foundation to boom, to push out of that. Rate of force development, isometric contractions happen faster than dynamic movements, enhancing your ability to rapidly produce maximal force for explosive athletic performance. So when you're doing a hold like this, it might look like your muscle is staying still. It's not lengthening, it's not shortening, but your muscle fibers, so the things that make up your muscle, they are firing rapidly, like way faster than if you're just coming here and you're moving dynamically. So they're here and they're rapidly firing. Bam, 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 bam. Keeping your muscle there. So this rate of force development is something like if you were like right here and I said, go, bam, that power, that rate of force, the amount of speed at which you are able to produce force, yielding isometrics is going to increase that because when you're here, they're rapidly firing at a much faster rate than when you're doing a dynamic movement. So this will be useful for anybody who is in a sport. If you're on a track, you would want to do yielding isometrics in your blocks. You would want to do yielding isometrics in throughout the position of running, like your arm up and whatnot, your leg back, and all those things. You want to do yielding isometrics, and then with conventional things like squats and deadlifts and bench, all those things, so that your muscles are way faster at producing force, so you can move down the track faster. This would be good for basketball players, for hockey players, for soccer players, for literally any athlete out there, anybody who plays a sport, golf, anything, any single thing you can think of as a sport where you move your body. This is going to benefit you because of that rate of force development. So this scientific foundation shows us that yielding isometrics aren't just about holding positions. They're about optimizing our neuromuscular system for peak performances. Okay, let's look at some transformative benefits here. So we're going to look at like, why does it matter? Like, okay, we already looked at all those things about sports and about building foundation. Okay, let's get a little bit more of like, why does this actually matter to us? So postural control and stability. So it develops stable posture and strengthens small stabilizer muscles that you might not normally work, improving joint integrity and preventing injury through enhanced proprioception. So normally when we're doing a dynamic movement like an overhead press, there's stabilizer muscles that we're not really using that much because we're just blasting through the movement, and so they don't get used. When you're doing a hold like this, you're going to be really burning those stabilizer muscles and building them up. For something like, so many people get rotator cuff injuries, okay? And if we do yielding isometric exercises, we can build up the muscles in that rotator cuff to be super strong, where that's never going to be an issue for you, or never be an issue ever again if you've had issues. And so yielding isometrics has been used in physical therapy for rehabilitation purposes, but then people just kind of forget about it and don't use it in an actual gym setting because they don't know how to program it. And so then also muscle endurance and mental toughness. Holding challenging positions builds local muscle endurance and physiological resilience. training both body and mind to endure under pressure. So this is actually really, really, really important. The majority of things that we want to do in life that use our muscles are things that are continual movements. Usually we don't go anywhere in real life, stand there, and then lift something one time for strength. Like we usually don't do that. It's usually something like we're carrying, like we're moving, so we're carrying heavy furniture, we're carrying groceries, we're picking up and putting down our child or something, or whatever it is. And so we need to be able to do sustained movement over time. And this is going to help us build muscular endurance. Now, there's a lot of benefits to doing this. And specifically, I'm going to talk about mitochondria. Now, the more mitochondria you have, usually the better, unless they're bad mitochondria, and that can cause a bunch of like cancerous type of stuff going on, okay? But this is going to build up in your muscles a dense, rich community of mitochondria, and that's going to help you just be healthier overall. So that's really, really important to do stuff like this to build that up. It's also going to build your mental health. If you're having to push through something that's really hard that you don't want to be pushing through, but you got to continue to push through it and feel this crazy burn and feel this crazy struggle, that's going to transfer over to other things in your life, and it's going to help you become more resilient in your mind. Things like this, putting yourself through things like this, through working out or things like doing a cold exposure or going on big hikes or doing crazy exercise, it's been proven by so much science studies to show that it's decreasing depression and anxiety and increasing our mental abilities, mental capacity. So this is going to push you to the next level. So even if you're not very interested in getting big muscles or getting really strong or having great muscular endurance, this is something where if you're anybody who wants to improve their mental capacity, so their memory, their intelligence, their ability to perform mentally or improve their mental health, doing these is going to be instrumental to getting you to the next level of performance. Also, time efficiency. These are short duration holds, and they deliver strength benefits equivalent to much longer dynamic training sessions, perfect for busy lifestyles. So this is something like I did a workout after work today, and it took me less than 5 minutes. And I hit pretty much my whole entire body, okay? So it's very, very time efficient, and what you can do is you can progress it with time or with load. So you could do something just like your normal squat, and you can just increase it with weight and just keep doing it at 30 seconds, but each week you increase the weight a little bit. If you want to go through a particular phase of your training where you switch over to endurance a little bit, you'd keep the same weight on the bar and you would just increase the amount of time that you hold it for, okay? But it's very, very time efficient, super high return on your investment for time. Okay, so the analogy here is like a blacksmith who shapes steel through sustained heat and pressure, yielding isometrics forge strength through sustained tension and time under load, creating unbreakable resilience. Let's continue. So a couple like issues that usually arise, okay? So mistakes that limit your progress. Mistake number one is excessive weight too soon. Okay, this is like ego lifting, whatever. We normally get that with dynamic movements, the gym, right? So this is adding external load before mastering the body weight holds, causes compensations, and reduces pure muscle activation patterns, potentially leading to injury. So one of the main issues is that people want to add on a bunch of weight to this because they don't want to do something like a wall sit. They think it's like not worth it, right? They think it's silly, or just holding an air squat. But do me a favor, right? Hold a wall sit for 5 minutes. If you can't hold a wall sit for 5 minutes, then we're kind of questioning whether or not you should be adding a bunch of weight, okay? You probably shouldn't be adding, like 300 pounds, on your squat for that much, for holding it for that long. However, right, it depends if you've already been lifting for a while. If you've already been lifting for a while, your body kind of is used to that load, and so you can do this. We just want to be careful with that, especially for beginners, so for children or for people who are newly coming to the gym or people rehabilitating from injury, not to put too much load on too soon. And usually for young people, for people who are new to the gym, or for people who are rehabilitating from an injury, the best bet is to progress with time first and then hit load. So progress body weight movements to 3 minutes of holding and then add weight to them. Okay, so mistake number 2 is poor positioning. This would be incorrect joint angles or body alignment, and that reduces the effectiveness and can cause joint strain. So proper form is very, very, very important. The same as when you're doing a dynamic movement, You don't want to have your joints going in the wrong angles. If you're doing a shoulder press like this, that's probably not going to be the best. If you're doing a shoulder press, you're trying to do it like it's just not going to work out very well. So have proper form with these, the same as dynamic movements. If you're doing just body weight holds, it's a little bit less important, but it's still super important to get that down in the beginning so you have a firm foundation to build on. So mistake number 3 is improper timing. So this would be doing the holds for too short of a time, so insufficient stimulus, or too long, and that would give you too much fatigue on your body. So this is finding the optimal time under tension. That sounds really like scientific and crazy. All that means is, let's say you're doing a wall sit, right? And you never, like, you just don't work out. You haven't worked out in 10 years. You do a wall sit and you're only on the wall for like 10 seconds. That's not enough, okay? What's going to happen is you're going to feel a burn. A lot of people who have not worked out before, so I've seen this when people come in and I train them because I'm a personal trainer. So when I train them, I'll see that when they're doing these, they'll feel a burn and they'll want to quit. And so that's me coaching them through the burn to feel that burn and be like, hey, it's okay to feel that burn. It's good. We want to feel that burn. Push through the burn. Continue, because you can hold longer. It's just your body's saying no, but your mind can do way more. And so getting people to push through that burn a bit longer until they actually are their muscles actually is giving up. It's important to not do too short, but not do so long, like doing 10 minutes every single day for a hold if you've never done it before in your life. You're like screaming because it's in so much pain. Okay. Mistake number 4 is neglecting progression. So systematic increases in duration or load are essential for continued strength improvements. Stagnation leads to plateaus. Same with dynamic movements, right? With these, we can progress. Like I said, you can progress with difficulty of hold. So that would be something like doing a regular plank to doing a one-legged plank or a one-armed plank, or that would be something like increasing the amount of time, or something like increasing weight. So that would be doing like a plank for more time, or wearing a weight vest for a plank, or like I said, doing a one-legged or a one-armed plank. Those are 3 different ways to progress it. And you want to do this continually over time. However, you don't want to go too fast. So usually you want to get to the point where if you're doing, let's say, a body weight hold like a plank, you can hold something for about 3 minutes with whatever you're doing before you progress. That's going to be a good spot to move on. Now, when you're doing like, let's say you're specifically programming yielding isometrics for strength, your hold times are going to be much lower. They're going to be like maybe 20 seconds max. Okay, because you're putting a lot of load. That just means that you need to get to the point where you're able to hold that. Whatever you started at, you're like, man, 20 seconds was super, super hard. RPE of 8, sort of perceived exertion. Rating of perceived exertion is like 8 out of 10. You're going to do that until you can hold it for like 30 seconds. And it's the same. It's an 8 out of 10 on perceived exertion. And then it's like, okay, I started at 20, now I'm doing 30. It's much easier. Now I'm going to move up the load a little bit. Okay, so avoid rushing the process. Quality over quantity always wins here. Okay. Now there is something to be said about quality over quantity. That phrase is that you can do very light load, but do super high quantity. So this would be something like when I'm getting clients to be able to do dynamic movements, I want them to have a light weight and do lots of reps, like 100 reps, right? A century set. Because doing that is going to get tons of blood in that area. It's also going to get them, like, the more times we do the movement, the more comfortable they become with the movement. Because at the beginning, they're usually like very awkward because they've never done it before, or they're just not very good at it. And so we want to get repetitions under our belt so that we can become good at the movement. So doing things like doing a wall sit, if you do that like every single day, that's going to help turn your muscles on to give you some really nice control in your squats. And that quantity is going to turn into quality over time. But what I'm saying here with this is don't try to put a bunch of load on your body and do it all the time to try to improve your gains, right? Focus on doing quality stuff first. So the simple believe anything, but the prudent give thought to their steps. Proverbs 14 and 15. Wisdom in training prevents setbacks and accelerates progress. This is going to be the biggest mistake I see with most people, is that they are not tracking their workouts. When you do not track your workouts, you have no idea where you started, and you have no idea really where you are in terms of your progress, and you have no idea where you want to go. And so that's the same problem with if you're doing that with your money. if you're not tracking your money, your income, your expenses, all the stuff that you do, how do you expect to improve over time? And so that's probably one of the biggest things in the gym is people need to track it. If they aren't tracking, yeah, sure, you can like get big, right? You can work out, whatever, get big, get strong. But if you want to actually make a huge difference in your training, that's going to be tracking it. And especially with yielding isometrics, if you want to not waste a bunch of time and you want to get there faster, that's going to be tracked. Okay, so moving along, solving training challenges, how yielding isometrics addresses weaknesses. So it strengthens weak points in range of motion. So you can target specific joint angles like we talked about before, where you typically fail dynamic lifts. This is addressing sticking points in squats, presses, and pulls through angle-specific strengthening. So as I said before, if you're at the very bottom of a squat, and it's very hard for you to push all that weight back up, then you can do a yielding isometric, a hold at the bottom, and you can do that. And over time, that's going to give you incredible strength to be able to push up out of that. If you're doing an overhead press, that's holding it down here at the bottom, doing holds. You can do your normal dynamic, range of motion, but you do holds for 10 seconds, up, hold for 10 seconds, up, hold for 10 seconds, up, hold for 10 seconds, up. And doing that is going to, in a way faster way, in a way safer way, build you up to be able to be really, really strong in this bottom portion. Okay, so let's look at improving joint stability. This, like I said, activates stabilizers and conditions connective tissues, protecting joints from injury while improving movement efficiency and power transfer. This is super, super important. You have your muscles, you have your tendons, and you have your ligaments, and then you have fascia, which surrounds everything, okay? And is in everything. So your tendons, they don't have a very good blood supply, as good as your muscles, and your ligaments don't either. That's why when you sprain or you strain something, then it takes a way longer time to heal than if you something happens to your muscle, because there's less blood flow. So yielding isometrics is great for your tendons because your tendons are actually a limiting factor on how much strength output you can have. Your muscles could lift, 500 pounds with squat, but let's say your tendons in your legs, your hips, whatever, aren't there yet, and so your body will not allow you to lift that weight. It won't let you do it. And you'll hurt yourself if you try to. And so yielding isometrics will increase the blood flow to your tendons because there's more time under tension there, a lot of blood. And doing this is going to really, really help your tendon health. And that's going to help you to be able to have incredible strength and reduce the chances of you getting injury around your joint. So, and it conditions all those connective tissues, like I said, like the tendons and also the fascia as well. So also building mental toughness, as we talked about, right? Holding demanding positions under load develops psychological stamina, essential for athletic performance and life challenges. So one thing I remember when I used to do on 400s in track in high school is, man, when you come around that back corner, you're like pretty gassed out already, and it's like, man, this is hard. And when you get to that straightaway, that last 100, you have to like really push all your sprint power, and it's really hard, and your legs are burning. So doing yielding isometrics, if I would have known this back then, oh my gosh, it would have made my time so much better, because I would have been able to push through so much of the burn and be so mentally tough that it wouldn't have mattered what my body was saying, because I could have just pushed through it because I would have been training yielding isometrics. Okay. Also conditions, like I just said, muscle tendon junctions, enhance force transmission through tendons, reducing injury risk while improving recovery and power output capacity. Weaknesses become strength and problems become solutions. Let's look at some practical implementations, okay? So common yielding isometric exercises, we've already talked about some, talked about body weight stuff, right? Doing a plank or wall sit, doing like a dead hang on a pull-up bar, doing a push-up hold. And we can do these for varied amounts of time and hit different parts of the body. You can do, like I said, endurance is going to be longer times, so like 60 seconds and beyond. Muscle is going to be more like 30 seconds to a minute, and then strength is going to be more like 10 to 30 seconds there. Okay. You also do loaded progressions. So looking at based off of your 1 rep max, it's going to be the same amount that you do for your dynamic movements. For strength, it's going to be usually anywhere from 80 to 95% for strength. That's going to be the amount of weight you want to put on the bar of your 1 rep max. Same thing for here. If you want to do strength for yielding isometrics, it's going to be looking at what's my 1 rep max. Okay, let me look at anywhere from 80 to 95%. Put that on the bar, and then do your hold, and it's gonna line up with actually improving your strength. If you want to do endurance, look at your 1 rep max, find your endurance, which would be like, anywhere from like 20 to like 50% of your 1 rep max. Do that. If you want to do muscle mass, do anywhere from like 50% to like 80%. That's your muscle mass range. And do the hold for the times that I said. Usually you want to start with body weight stuff just to see where you are, and then add the load onto the bar, whatever else you're doing, okay? So progression principle here is master body weight holds before adding external resistance. Quality movement patterns must be established before intensity increases. This is something that even if you normally go into the gym and you do your squats, to just like at home, do wall sits or hold air squats with no weight and just hold them for time. And you'll actually see that when you do those, if you do them for a couple of weeks, you'll actually see that your normal squat with the normal bar will actually increase. It's crazy. Okay, so programming for success here, we're chugging along. Systematic implementation strategies. This is just a quick little example of like what it might look like. Okay, our weekly structure, frequency of 2 to 4 sessions per week. I usually do them like 5 times a week, then rest on Saturday and Sunday. Okay, volume would be 3 to 6 holds per exercise. This would be, usually for me, this is, I'm doing the primary like functions of the human body. It's going to be a vertical push, a vertical pull. It's going to be a horizontal push, horizontal pull. It's going to be a squat, a hinge, and then some sort of thing with the spine. So either extension, flexion, or rotation. So I usually do like Superman's or the hyperextension or whatever for like back, and then I do like a bicycle hold or a hollow hold for that flexion of the spine. So the progression protocol here would be like week 1 to 2, you're establishing baseline holds, like your plank, your wall sit, all those body weight things. Week 3 to 4 would be increase the duration. So go from like holding from a minute to like a minute and a half. And then week 5 to 6 would be adding external load or advanced positions. So this would be moving either from like a regular plank to a 1 arm or 1 leg plank, like I said before, or adding a weight vest. And then week 7 would be like a deload and reassess week, where you're like, okay, let me relax a little bit, give my body a rest and see what's going on, see how my lifts have improved, see how I feel, see how I look. Integration strategies. So there's some ways that you can use this to add on to what you already do in the gym, or what you already do to work out. So this is great for athletes, great for people who are just going to the gym for general health, whatever. So you can use it as a pre-activation before main lifts. So this is great. This actually gets your muscles fired up and gets blood in your muscles. So this would be something like, let's say you're going to be squatting, go to the wall, do a wall sit for about a minute or 30 seconds, rest for like a minute or 2, and then go into your normal squat. And then your legs muscles are way more ready to actually get in there and squat. And you can use this for any exercise that you do. Do like an isometric hold, an isometric hold for that position before you actually hop in and do your real lifts. Right? This is sticking point reinforcement. So let's say again with the squat example, let's say you're going to go squat, but you have a problem in the bottom position where you just get stuck. Okay, you're going to go ahead and put a light weight on the bar, less than you're normally doing, and then go down to that low position, hold that for about 30 seconds, and then come back up, rest for a minute or 2, and then do your normal lift. And you should see a little bit of improvement in that bottom position and less stick, especially over time if you implement this. This can be used as a finisher for time efficient strength. This is something where you're doing, like, let's say on your last set, or I like to just, if I'm doing dynamic movements, I just do one set to failure, that's it. So that would be doing as much as I can until I feel like I'm going to fail, and then just holding for 30 seconds. And then we have rehabilitation and prehab work. We talked about that. Anybody who has an injury overcoming anything, great for rehabilitating that. And then if you're an athlete, oh my gosh, you need to be doing yielding isometrics to be able to prevent injuries. How many athletes, how many people do you know that have played a sport in college and lost their scholarship because they got injured? And so doing yielding isometrics can dramatically decrease the chances of an athlete getting injured. And that means we keep more kids in school, more kids with scholarships, and less kids off doing whatever they shouldn't be doing. Okay. So your strength journey begins now, right? Your yielding isometrics journey begins now. We're almost done. So taking action here with yielding isometrics, the immediate action steps would be the first thing would be to assess your current weak points in your lifts. So find out where you're weak in your squat, where you're weak in your push-ups or your overhead press or your bench, where you're weak in your pull-ups and your pull-downs, whatever they are, where you're weak in your deadlifts. Okay. Then you're going to start with body weight holds. Second thing, you're going to start with body weight holds this week. I started doing on TikTok a wall sit every single day. Okay. So every day wall sit, and I believe today is day 9. of doing that. So I just started putting on TikTok, and that's going to be something that I continue for as long as I can, get as many days as I can. So start with bodyweight holds this week, okay? And then track hold times and progressions. Okay, track your times. You don't have to have this crazy tracking sheet. Just have a piece of paper there, and you just write down the holds that you do. I do about 6 holds at home, and I just track. Okay, I held that for this week. I held that for 30 seconds or a minute or whatever, and then now I know next week. Okay, I'm going to increase that time a little bit or increase my load. And then also the fourth thing would be to focus on perfect positioning first. So do your best to get into position and make sure it's good. The same as when you're doing normal dynamic movements, we would prefer, especially as a personal trainer or any sort of coach, you'd prefer your athlete or your person you're training to be able to come, let's say an overhead press, all the way up here and then all the way down. Full range of motion. You want full range of motion. You don't want them to come here and then here. Like, you could do partials to end a set, but during the set, we want full range of motion, okay? So here's a 30-day challenge for you. So I know on here it says something, okay? Don't look at that. We're not going to look at that 30-day challenge, okay, right now. What I want you to do is go to my TikTok or not, right? But the challenge being, do a 1-minute wall set every single day for the next 30 days, and then see how you change, see how you feel, okay? That's my challenge to you right now. The call to action is not to go buy something of mine. I don't have anything to sell right now, okay? My call to action, my challenge to you is to do a wall sit every single day for the next 30 days, never missing a day, okay? And see what changes in your life, okay? Right? Build strength that just transcends the physical. Forge character through consistency, purposeful effort under tension. The verse here is Proverbs 31:25. She is clothed with strength and dignity. She can laugh at the days to come. Okay, this is talking about when we're doing yielded isometrics here, things are gonna become laughable because they're not gonna become hard anymore because we are pushing our body super hard. If we push ourselves physically hard, that's gonna help us mentally, and then that's gonna help us spiritually. So we need to hit this physical and conquer the flesh, okay? So remember, strength isn't just built in moments of action, but in moments of steadfast endurance. Final thought here is, like the oak tree that bends but does not break in the storm, yielding isometrics teaches us to find our strength, not in movement, but in our ability to remain unmoved when it matters most. And remember what it says in the Bible, be still and know that I am God. So we've reached the end of this, of yielding isometrics. This is just an introduction to it. There is so much more that we can go into deeper, and we will in the future, but this is what I have for you now. I know this would have been helpful to me, to my younger self, and so I'm really, really, really encouraging anybody who is an athlete to absolutely use yielding isometrics. If you don't know if you should do it, tell your coach about it. If you see this video, have your coach watch it, have your coach reach out to me. If you want to reach out to me to learn more about this, just go ahead and message me, and I will get back to you, because everybody needs to be using this. Old people, young people, athletes, the injured, the non-injured, everyone needs to be using this, okay? And I want to get this out there as much as I can about yielding isometrics. So peace be with you, brothers, and I will see you soon.